Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Joanna G. Holden. I'm an author, blogger, and vlogger. And today I'd like to talk about what is, to some writers, the most grueling part of the writing process. And that is the first draft, just getting the manuscript finished. Now every writer has their own least favorite part of the writing process. For some writers, it's the pre-writing phases, the brainstorming, the outlining, all the research that can go into world building. For others, it's the post-writing process. It is editing and rewriting and more editing and then going through professional edits. But for many writers, myself included, the number one hardest part of writing is just getting the first manuscript finished. And there are a lot of reasons for that. Some of us are very slow drafters and it just is taking so long that it becomes very discouraging. Others are just so overwhelmed by how terrible their writing is at first, because let's be honest, usually when you first start writing, the writing is pretty terrible. Others are just overwhelmed at trying to piece together the puzzle and it's just a mess. And they would rather just wait until it's all finished and then go back and fix it. They just haven't gotten to that part yet, so again, they get discouraged. Regardless of your personal reasons, if you are struggling with your first draft and you feel like it's killing you, then you're in luck. I am here to share with you my 8 tips on how to survive the first draft. So let's get started. Okay, number 8, because I'm going backwards leading up to a climax, is to be open-minded about who you are as a writer and what your writing process looks like. There is a huge misconception, I think, among writers that you either have to be a plotter or a pantser. For those of you who don't know, a plotter is someone who relies heavily on outlines and detailing every single inch of the novel before they ever even start writing the first chapter. A pantser is someone who throws caution to the wind and writes by the seat of their pants, hence the name. They skip the outlines, they skip all the prep work, they just dive right in and discover the story as they write. And I think a lot of us have gotten caught up in one phase or the other at some time and realized that we weren't who we thought we were as a writer. I did this. I thought for sure and certain that I had to be a plotter because I like outlines, so I'm a plotter then, I guess. And then it started confusing me when I started writing my first draft, and I realized that this is a lot harder than I thought it would be. My outlines aren't really helping. I keep changing the story as I go, and the characters are developing differently than I thought they would, and I keep thinking up new angles to throw in. My outline is pretty much useless at this point. What I realized, and what was so hard for me to acknowledge, was that I wasn't a plotter, but I wasn't a pantser either. I was somewhere in between, and that was okay. That's kind of the second part of this point, is that even if you're not who you thought you were as a writer, and even if your writing process has to change once, twice, maybe a dozen times, it's okay. You don't have to be any one given type of writer. You can be whatever kind of writer God created you to be, and nobody is going to judge you for it. Okay, well, they may judge you, but they're just being jerks, and you should listen to them, okay? Number 7 is to drop all expectations on your novel. Accept the expectation that it is going to be messy. I walked into my first draft this last time round assuming that I was just going to start launching out words and I was going to be hitting all my goals and I was going to be advancing the plot in all these extraordinary ways. And my first draft was so messy the first time that I attempted going through it that I had to stop. And I literally took a 2-month sabbatical from writing because I thought I wasn't a writer anymore. I thought I had lost it. I thought having kids or something in my 20s had taken away my writing creativity because my writing was so terrible and my story was so messy. What I had to come to terms with was the fact that my writing is going to be messy the first time around, and again, that's okay. It doesn't matter what anybody tells you. If your writing sucks the first time around, that's not a big deal. Many writers have sucked the first draft majorly, and yet they still somehow pump out some really amazing novels. So if you're stuck looking at your novel and thinking, man, I am the world's worst writer, don't, because I still exist, and so there's no possible way that you're the worst first drafter ever. Just saying. Number 6 is to be willing to stop what you're doing, scrap what doesn't need to be used, and to go back to square one and start over again. It's a really long point, but I'll boil it down to be willing to chuck stuff. Does that make more sense? Regardless of all good intentions and all the outlining, you still may end up with a huge chunk of material that is not helping you, and you're going to have to scratch it and start over. And again, that's okay. If you have to go all the way back to square one and start your manuscript from scratch, that's okay. It's depressing, but you'll get over it, and the novel will be even more amazing than you thought it would be. It's okay to take a step back, review your work, and decide that it's just not going where you want. I know tons of writers who do this. Again, I myself have done this. When I first started the very rough draft of Coastlander the Enigma 2 years ago in November, it was for NaNoWriMo. I ended up with 15,000 words that were so terrible, I had to scratch them. I couldn't use them. I ended up going back and rewriting them. Then, during the official first draft launch back in last March, I again ended up with 15,000 words that were so terrible, I had to go back and rewrite them because it just didn't feel right. And if I hadn't, I would not have been able to keep moving on. If your mess is keeping you from moving on, scratch it and start over. Keep it somewhere so that you'll be able to use it again at some point, but don't be afraid to just start over if you need to. Number 5, keep a list of all the major and minor plot points you're going to want to add later. If you are in the mode and you just have to keep blazing that trail and get to the finish line, because if you stop, your inner editor will catch up with you and destroy your life, then the easiest way to make sure you remember everything is to keep a designated running list somewhere you know where it is. I have lost mine before, don't do that. Somewhere you know where it is, and just keep a list, a running list of all the plot points that you need to add. You can also keep a running list of characters you need to take out or fix. If you have a list somewhere, it'll make it so much easier, A, for editing later, but also B, to be able to remember things as you're going through that you've changed. Which leads to number 4, which is that it is okay to edit as you go, provided you don't get stuck. I thought it was actually somehow wrong to edit as I went, and so I didn't for a long time, and I suffered because my writing was terrible and the story was not working out, and I had to go back and fix it and kind of figure out what was going on. Had I decided to just do that in the first place, it would have been a lot easier, and I would not have had to throw out as many words. What I have done for the last couple of portions of drafting have been to write about 10 to 15,000 words, stop, go back over, do a quick rewrite to fix all the pieces that are all messed up, and then from there move on. When I did that, I could launch forward into the next portion of my draft with so much more fire and enthusiasm than if I had just been slogging along knowing how terrible that wreckage was behind me. If you do get stuck, if you tend to let your inner editor go wild, then don't do this. Use the last point and just keep trudging forward. But if you're okay with leaving crap as long as it's not that bad, then you can go back and fix it up a little bit and then keep moving forward. Just make sure that you don't spend forever on chapter 1 like most of us do. Number 3 is to surround yourself with encouraging writers who understand the problems and honest but kind critique partners. This is essential. You need somebody to turn to during your first draft to say, help! And you can't do that if you don't have any good writer buddies that you can trust. If you need help finding them, I'm going to do a whole other video on how to find good writer buddies. You need to find writers who are encouraging and who are really going to help you make your draft the best that it can be. And you also just need writer friends to sympathize with you and commiserate with you and say, yeah, I know, the first draft sucks. It's okay, mine does too. And move on together. Just be sure that whoever you do have as a CP or writer buddy is not dragging you down by telling you all the ways that you're doing it wrong. This is not helpful, and you really should not be surrounding yourself with these kinds of people. You can keep them as friends, you don't want to be rude, but you don't have to go to them for all of your writer problems. Find someone who's going to be supportive and encouraging and who's going to help you, not somebody who's going to tear you down. Step number 2 is to give yourself a generous amount of time to write your book. I really struggled with this one, I majorly struggled with this one. I thought I was going to sit down and write my book in a year. Well, it's been a year, folks. It's been over a year, and I'm almost halfway through the manuscript. Because life happened. I had a baby. I had another baby. I moved twice in 6 months. People, life happens. It's okay if you are not the kind of writer who's going to get your book done in 2 months or in 6 months or even in a year. If it's your first book, give yourself some slack and understand that you need to take your time. And number one, my best tip for surviving the first draft is to view your writing of this book as a journey. Not as a boop, 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 done, but rather as a long process, an adventure. You can view it as a journey to who you are as a writer, to discovering your characters, to discovering this world. If you're writing fantasy, you definitely need to view it as discovery of this world because you have built an entire world full of races and cultures and civilizations that are all brand new. You need to let yourself discover these things. Let yourself explore these things. It may take you time to discover your writing process, what that process looks like, how long it takes you to do different things, what venues you want to pursue in this writing, what different tools you want to use. If you view it as a journey, then you'll be better equipped to just keep plowing and keep at it and keep exploring and yet still be able to look up and around and enjoy the ride instead of feeling strapped to it for life. Well, I hope that you enjoyed that and that it helped you a lot. And again, just be encouraged. If you are majorly struggling with your first draft, you are not alone. Many, many writers struggle with the first draft. I'm struggling with my first draft. Don't be discouraged. Just keep writing and never give up, and it will happen. If you liked the content in this video, then please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to hit subscribe on the way out. I post new videos on Saturdays and Wednesdays, sometimes every other Wednesday. I have a busy life. You can also check me out on social media. I'm available on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest, and all of my links are in the description box below. Are you interested in starting your writer journey? Go to my website, www.joannaholden.com, and you can check out what I have there to help you out. You will find my critique services that are available, as well as a blog that chronicles my writing journey and the discoveries I make along the way, as well as short stories that I've written and author interviews. And there is going to be one coming up very soon that you AuthorTube lovers are going to want to see, so keep your eyes open for that. My debut fairy tale retelling novella, Little Hood, is still available for purchase via Amazon, and now signed copies are available on my website. You can go check that out. It is a great short summer read. And to stay updated on my current novel in progress, you can go to my website and sign up for my newsletter. It comes out once a month and sometimes more frequently. It includes updates, promotions, and giveaways related to my novel. It also includes a writer's toolbox, which has monthly recommendations on writer's resource material. And it has some fun, inspiration, and motivational materials as well, because all writers need to pick me up now and then. Again, that information is available on my website. Thank you guys again so much for watching this video. I enjoyed making it. I hope you enjoyed watching it. Another one will be coming up on Saturday. Keep an eye out for it, and I will see you then. Bye!